much smaller, even with heels on. Ashley, thank you so much for those kind words. It's always slightly uncomfortable, but also very humbling to hear people speak about you. Welcome to our celebration and our 5th anniversary of Broadleaf. Thank you for joining us tonight. We also want to thank Stroudsmoor and Andy and Linda for their countless support, and all of you, of course, for being here with us. So to begin, let me just briefly introduce you to Broadleaf. We are a startup nonprofit based in the Darjeeling region of Northeast India. Our work centers on the basic belief that all communities deserve quality healthcare and quality education. And it's through innovative models that we're making this a reality for many people and many communities in that area. So tonight, I have the very distinct pleasure of sharing some stories with you from the region and from our own communities. I really love illustrating the change that we create through these slice of life stories. So here it goes. My first story, it starts at a focus group session that we held in the Kolbum community. And members of our Darjeeling team sat down with people in our community and they said, what do you think about Broadleaf? How's it going? And this elderly grandfather stood up and he had this big, cheeky smile on his face, and he told our team that, well, his granddaughter just loved Broadleaf so much, and she was putting the learning that she was gaining in the classroom into practice every single night at their household. And so that meant that every single night before the family goes to bed, the little girl rounds everybody up and says, come on, you all have to come brush your teeth before you go to bed. Which sounds very simple, however, that means the whole family has to walk down a very steep incline in the dark to their water source. So it's actually fairly challenging to brush their teeth before they go to bed. But the grandfather stood up and he was so proud of his granddaughter's activism and her learning, and even though he wasn't happy about the long, dark walks at night, he felt very proud and happy for her learning. So my next story takes us to Padang community, where we have Nima, who works as an SHA, a school health activist there. She recently went through a training on behavioral health that we rolled out, and after her training she started to shift her thinking about the students that she interacts with every single day in the classroom and in her community, and Swetya came to mind right away for Nima. She's a student who Nima described as always being withdrawn, and withdrawn from her classmates, or withdrawn in her community, withdrawn at home. And so during class, she was the student who always picks the seat in the far back of the classroom as far as she can, away from other kids. She would eat lunch alone on the playground and slowly, so she didn't have to play afterward. And teachers and family members of this child were very confused about ways to support her, and so they often scolded her and would hit her if she withdrew from her classmates. So after the training from Broadleaf, Nima realized that there were a lot more opportunities to support Swetya's individual growth at home and at school. So Nima worked with the child's teachers and with her family on ways to support her, on ways to build her self-confidence. So now, just literally a few months later, Swetya is sitting in the front of her classroom, and she hurries up to eat her lunch every day and goes and plays on the playground with her friends afterward. And just about a week ago, we heard from Nima that Nima was invited to Swetya's birthday party with all of her new friends and her family, and so it was a big win for Nima, for Swetya, her family, and I think her community as well. It's exciting. Now I'm going to shift gears a little bit. This is Miriam, and she was actually named our SHA inaugural SHA of the year this year, and for really good reason. We sat down and we interviewed Miriam about her experience with Broadleaf and how it has empowered her so far as a woman in her community. And I'm just going to read you the quotes, some of the quotes. She spoke for a very long time, but I'll read you some of the quotes, and I think her words are much more powerful than my own. So at first she said, "I work with dedication, even during my difficult times with my family, and also when I fell sick. I did not stop. I kept moving forward, and I did not stop going to school or attending trainings or conducting interventions." She also told us that, "I feel being a woman and working as an SHA in my community has been challenging. I feel motivated by thinking that I should put more effort than a man, and this helps me overcome my challenges and helps me do my best." And finally, and this one I think is just so powerful, she says, "In my childhood days, I used to dream of being a nurse when I grew up. Through CHIP, I'm getting this opportunity to conduct health screenings, and this makes me feel that my dream of being a nurse has come true." So, pretty great. Miriam also, I think we talked about this 2 years ago when we stood here, but Miriam actually saved a life of a child who was severely malnourished and brought him to all the health care that he needed. And he's a child that probably would have died, but is now thriving in our communities as well. So she's incredible. Okay, one final story, and it's a really fast one, but it's adorable, I think. So Mike was recently in Darjeeling in January, and a mom came up to him and she was telling him she's so happy for Broadleaf and for our program because her son is teaching her all about germs. And she said she felt like her son needed some more nutrition. So she went to the neighbor and she bought some apples for him and she brought them home, and she's like, "Here, eat these apples, you need to kind of get healthier." And he looked up at her and he very emphatically exclaimed, "I'm not eating that apple. You have to wash it first. There's germs on that apple." So the mother kind of looked at Mike and was like, "I can't believe that you've reversed roles in my household and now my child is teaching me." And so it's pretty endearing, I think. So anyway, now that you've had some time to hear about all of the people that we work with and that Broadleaf reaches, I'm going to pass it over to Mike, and he's going to try really hard to not bore you with some statistics and data.
All right, so I'm going to share with you where we began, where we've been, and where we're going. So this is where we began. 10 years ago, Denna and I were here. We accidentally found ourselves teaching at a village primary school in Koti in Darjeeling. And these are the kids that we taught. They're all teenagers now, so they look a lot different, which is pretty astounding 10 years later. But at the time, they were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. 40% of these kids were iron deficient anemic. 30% of them had intestinal parasites. They missed 10, 20, 30 days of school a year from illness. And there are one or two children that aren't in this picture because they passed away from pneumonia or diarrhea. The response to this in India, the response to this challenge is school health. However, the problem is, how do you make school health work in the rural eastern Himalayas? And that's what no one has solved yet, and that is what we have had an idea and what we have tried to solve. So 5 years ago, we returned with our idea. We founded Broadleaf. We put CHIP into place in 16 schools, 2,000 kids, and we tested this idea. And like Dennis said, data statistics, we've collected numbers and crunched them and run them all, and trying to figure out the simple question of, does it work? And I think what I'd like to tell you tonight is that I've seen the numbers, I've seen the data, I've heard stories that Denna has told you, but I'm a numbers guy. And the numbers bear out that the answer to that question is an emphatic yes. This works, it works very well. It works better than I would have hoped it works. So here's two numbers that I'm gonna throw at you. 44% increase in health knowledge compared to our control schools. It's that's gaining health knowledge is what allows us to share stories with you like we've shared tonight. The other thing, in a region where diarrhea is the major public health threat, the major cause of morbidity and mortality for children, we've seen an astounding 30% decrease. We're really, really proud and really psyched about that. We think that in the past 5 years, we've seen a problem, we've developed a solution, we've tested that, and we know it works. So the question is, where do we go from here, right? There are several million children in the Eastern Himalayas. By 2028, we want to reach at least 1 million of them, right? We need to make a transition. We're at an inflection point. We have piloted, we've tested, we've proven, and now we need to make that switch to replication and scale. And so this is a big, crucial moment for Broadleaf. I'm not going to get into too many of the details and bore you, but we're working to develop a model for scale that includes financial partnership with the schools that we work with, so we can begin to really roll this out to more and more schools. But we're a startup. We're like a tech startup, right? And this period it's hard for any company. This is where you need money, you need your capital to get things out and get them rolling, and it's hard to do that. So, to be blunt, for any company, and particularly for a nonprofit, that's a challenge. But it's also where you have a huge, huge opportunity for impact. It's where a small bit of money goes an enormous way. And what we want you to do is help us to achieve our mission. We want you to be part of this inflection point. We want you to be part of this change from a pilot to a replicatable and scalable program that spans across the Eastern Himalayas. So I want to thank everyone for coming here tonight. I really, from the bottom of my heart, I think Denna and I we feel a lot of heartfelt appreciation for everyone in this room. We want you to feel also proud, like we do, that you're part of this accomplishment, because a large amount of what we can accomplish is a result of the people in this room. So I think I want to end with a thank you, very sincere. We hope you continue to follow us, continue to support us, check out our website, check out our social media, come back to our events in a few years, all that. But thank you so much. This is how we bring change in a region where it's very hard to do that. So thank you.